There's some evidence that our temperament is more or less set at birth. So-and-so's a gloomy Gus and someone else is a ray of sunshine. That sort of thing. And even when something wonderful or terrible happens to us, most of us eventually return to that emotional set point. But Davidson believes the set point can be moved.
And our work has been fundamentally focused on what the brain mechanisms are that underlie these emotional qualities and how these brain mechanisms might change as a consequence of certain kinds of training.
This is not work you could have done 20 years ago.
Not at all. In fact, 20 years ago we had dreams of methods that allow us to interrogate the brain in this way, but we had no tools to do it.
Now we have the tools, we can see that as our emotions ebb and flow, so do brain chemistry and blood flow. Fear, depression, love, they all get different parts of our brain working. Happiness now and enthusiasm and joy, they show up as increased activity on the left side near the front of the cortex. Anxiety and sadness on the right. Davidson has found this pattern in infants as young as 10 months and in toddlers and teens and adults. Richard Davidson tested 150 ordinary people to see which parts of their brain were most active. Some were a little more active to the left, some a little more active to the right. A few were quite active to the right. They would probably be called depressed. And a few were quite active to the left, the happy kind of people who think that life is always great. So there was a range. But then Davidson tested a monk, and the monk was so far to the left, he was off the curve. That was one happy monk.
And this is rather dramatic evidence that there's something really different about his brain compared with the brains of these other 150 people. This is tantalizing evidence that these practices may indeed be promoting beneficial change in the brain.
Here, the Olympic athletes of meditation meet the Cadillac of brain scanners. Kachab Rinpoche, a monk from Asia, is here to meditate in perhaps the strangest place in his life, the functional MRI.
State of pure compassion now.
It lets scientists watch what happens inside his brain when he switches between different types of meditation.
Okay, that's the end of the block. Can you ask him whether he...
They want to know how his brain may differ from ordinary people and whether that change is related to the inner contentment the monks report. So they test how subjects react to unpleasant sounds and images flashed into the goggles they wear.
I'll show you one other figure here, and what this is showing is the reactivity to emotional stimuli.
Normally when we're threatened, this part of the brain is tremendously active, but in the monks,
the responsivity in this area is specifically decreased during this meditation practice in response to these very intense auditory stimuli that convey strong emotion.
it's very preliminary work, but the implication may be that the lamas are able to move right through distressing events that overwhelm the rest of us. In other words, one of the keys to their happiness. It may also tell us something about our potential.
Our brains are adaptable. Our brains are not fixed. The wiring in our brains is not fixed. Who we are today is not necessarily who we have to end up being.
Tibetan Buddhism is said to be one of the most demanding mental endeavors on the planet. It takes 10,000 hours of meditation and years in retreat to become adept. Few of us can imagine such a commitment. That doesn't mean the benefits of meditation are out of our reach.